Welcome back to Sufi Mindfulness Yoga. In our first video, we established a connection between 6 primary sounds and their emotional values. We had 3 primary vowels and 3 primary consonants. In this video, we'll be looking at the non-primary sounds. Let's take a look first at vowels. Here's a slide with the 3 primary vowels. Remember the ah, oo, and e, with their valence of relaxation for ah, lack of pleasantness for oo, and lack of control for e. Now here's a slide that shows some non-primary vowels. And you'll notice they are located between primary vowels. The primary vowels stand at the corners of the vowel space, and non-primary vowels fit somewhere inside that vowel space. And their emotional value is always a combination of the 2 primary, sometimes 3 primary vowels in which it's closest to. So you can see here the O sound being between the ah and the oo. The O sound therefore has some relaxation and some unpleasantness. And the A sound between the E and the ah, that has some relaxation and some lack of control. All right, so we don't use the non-primary vowels very often, so we don't have to worry too much. That's all we need to discuss on them. Let's move to the non-primary consonants. Now we have a lot of consonants that we're going to use, so we need to take a look at each individual consonant to come up with its emotional valence. Now the first group of consonants we're going to look at is stop consonants. And the stop consonant is formed whenever the air is temporarily blocked, and then released. So an example of a stop consonant would be a pa, where you block the air with the lips before releasing the air, pa. Now the pa and the ba are both modulated with the lips. And the lips, if you recall, the lips are the articulator that modulates the feeling of pleasure. So both pa and ba have a connection to pleasure. Now what is that connection? Well, it's determined by the voicing of the sound. And what do I mean by voicing? Well, if you say the sound for ba, the B sound, ba, the vocal cords will vibrate before the air is released. You can feel this if you put your fingers on your throat where the vocal cords are and say ba, ba. The vibration occurs before the release. Contrast that with the pa, pa, pa. The vocal cords do not vibrate until the air is released. Now that difference in how the air is released determines the valence of the sound, the emotional valence of that sound. So the ba, you're holding on to the air, and the vocal cords begin to vibrate while you're still holding on to the air. So that's holding on to this emotional valence of pleasantness. So the ba is holding on to something pleasurable, where the pa is releasing the air before the vocal cords vibrate. So you're getting rid of pleasantness. You're throwing out pleasantness. Now think of this when somebody says to an idea, puh, I don't think that's good, puh. Yeah, that's kind of a put down of an idea. So it's releasing, getting rid of any idea of pleasantness associated with that puh sound. So let's move to stop consonants that are articulated with the tongue, and we can do that kind of a stop consonant with placing the tongue in, or different parts of the tongue in different areas. So the tip of the tongue can create the stops ta and da. Ta is an unvoiced, da is voiced. And we can use the middle of the tongue to stop to create the cha and the ja, the j and the ch, cha, ja. The ja is voiced, the cha is unvoiced. Again, if you can tell, you say ja, the vocal cords vibrate before you release. And the third set of stop consonants that are articulated with the tongue, it uses the back portion of the tongue. And we can create, by lifting the back portion of the tongue to stop the air, we create a ga or ka. And the ga is the voiced version, and the ka is the unvoiced. Those are G and K sounds that we have. Now, with the tongue, it's all about control. That's the emotional dimension of control that the tongue modulates. And the different portions of tongue determines what type of control we're talking about. The tip of the tongue is associated with control, mental control, control of ideas. So ta is releasing ideas, releasing any idea, any control an idea has on you. Da is holding on to that control. Da, you want to keep that idea. You want to keep that idea with the da sound, da. And the ta is you're just letting go of that idea. Now the back of the tongue with the ga and the ka, those sounds, because the back of the tongue is connected to the jaw, that has an element of physical arousal level associated with the control. So it's control of something physical, the ga and the ka. The ka is releasing the control, and the ga is holding on to that control, trying to keep that control, that physical control. And the middle portion of the tongue, the ja and the cha, that's control of something that I would call global control. So we have control that's not just an idea and it's not a physical thing, but it's something that controls something global. And the ja is holding on to that control. And the cha would be releasing it. Okay, here's a chart that shows those 4 pairs of stop consonants and their emotional valences. Now let's move on to frigatives. Frigative consonants are created through constricting the airway but not stopping the airflow completely. The air creates a friction, so it's a pair of frigatives that we'll start with are the S and the Z, S and Z. The S is an unvoiced frigative and the Z is voiced. The Z has our vocal cords vibrating, where the S, the sound is created simply through the friction and not with the vocal cords. Now these two sounds characterize what we call stream of consciousness. And the S is a stronger stream, or connects to a stronger stream of consciousness, and the Z is more grounded, more laid back stream of consciousness. All right, let's move on to another pair of frigatives, and that would be the F and V. This pair uses the teeth and the lips. Since the lips modulate the pleasure dimension and the teeth are in the jaw, which modulates the arousal dimension, the F and V modulate both arousal and pleasure. The F is unvoiced, the V is voiced. The F sound, emotional valence of that sound has something to do with a pleasure that is sort of held back. Held back because the arousal, whenever you have your teeth touching your lips, you're not going to bite. It's keeping that arousal level from going into a high level. So it's holding back. So the F sound is sort of a contented sound. You're happy, but you're not overjoyed. You're holding back. And the V is the voice that's more laid back, kind of feeling of very, very luxuriating contentment. Okay, we have a couple more English consonants. One of them is the L sound, and we can create an L when we are talking with 2 different ways. If the L is at the beginning of the syllable, the tip of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, like lake. If the L is at the end of the syllable, the tip of the tongue does not do that, so that would be like wall. But in both cases, the L sound has air flowing around the tongue. It's least constricting of the types of consonants articulated with the tongue. So the feeling of control, because the tongue modulates control, the feeling of control is loose control, or letting things flow, that kind of control that you feel almost happening automatically. Another sound is the Y sound, and that is created in the back of the mouth with the back of the tongue. Yes, yes. And that sound, because the tongue is the back of the tongue is used, it's control modulating physical. And the physical control, it's different from the K, the K and the G, which was holding on to a releasing control. The Y is a continuous sound, and that is bringing in control. So adding control with the Y sound. We'll see how that works in several different examples later on. Another sound that we use in English is the W sound, wa, way, wa. And that is modulated with the lips. And the lips start with the oo position, wa. I guess that's how the double U gets into the name. But it's the oo, but instead of holding the lips steady, it's wa. It's releasing that position. So the emotional valence of the W sound is releasing unpleasantness. Very important sound that has very useful ways that we will see. The last English consonant that we're going to discuss does not use any of the three major articulators. It's the H sound, ha. And that we create with constriction in the back of the throat. Now the H, emotional value of the H, depends upon whether it begins a syllable or whether it ends a syllable. Whenever it ends a syllable, it exhausts or gets rid of, because of its constricting manner, it gets rid of the previous sound, so it's draining it away. Whenever it's at the beginning of the syllable, it indicates a tiredness. So it has emotional valence of tiredness. It could be a physical tiredness or a mental tiredness, but a tiredness. That's the H sound. Okay, so there you have 18 consonants. That's going to be the vast majority of what we're going to use. There'll be a couple more introduced as in some further videos, but for now that's going to cover it. If you want to have more information to understand how the relationships between these consonants and the emotions have been established, you can get some more info on my website, or you can get my book, which goes into much more detail of the research behind that. Okay, so that will be enough for now. Next time we will be getting into some practices which will use these relationships that we've now established. Okay, see you then.